me just welcome you here today for our kickoff exhibition. I always feel like the semester hasn't really started until we have our first opening art show. And I say that and I see some of you looking at me like, you're wrong, Mr. Shaw. I've got enough homework to prove that the semester started last week. But welcome, and we thank you for coming. We thank all the artists who participated in this show, which I'll explain a little bit more. The faculty, the staff, student helpers who helped put together a wonderful day. So thank you so much to everybody, and welcome. This show is unique because it's unlike any that we've ever done before here at Spring Arbor University. We've had alumni art shows, but we've never had an alumni graphic design show. So this is really fun for us. And I guess then the title of the show says it all, Alumni Graphic Design, right? I wasn't very creative with my postcard title. But that's what it is. We're looking at alumni work today. You're going to see work when we head over to the gallery from Spring Arbor University graphic design alumni who are working all over the country. Colorado, Seattle, of course Michigan. I did a couple new pieces just to test myself, practice. But before we head over to the gallery, I want to introduce you to our guest speaker, and I'm just very, very excited. That's two verys, okay? I'm very, very excited to have Carrie Schimmel here. She's one of our very successful alumni coming out of our program. And she agreed to kind of be the representative of all the alumni that were in this show this semester. But Carrie was a junior at Spring Arbor University when I came to teach in 2001. So I only had a couple years to really work with her. But what I realized very quickly was that she was already a rising star. And I think when she speaks today, you're going to see some of the things that she's accomplished, and you'll be amazed because she's still a rising star. Carrie worked, some of her background, she worked at Daniel Bryan Advertising in Rochester, Michigan for 11 years, working her way up to the principal creative director. Was that about as high as you could go there? So see, that's how it works in graphic design. She recently moved then to Campbell Ewald, one of the, is it the third largest third oldest advertising agency in the world. One of the largest because, again, it's international, global. And she's there now as the chief marketing officer. She oversees accounts like Cadillac, Harley Davidson, and I won't steal too much of her thunder, but we were on the phone talking last week, and she said, Brian, I just can't get used to the amount of money, budgets crossing my desk. And so if you're working on accounts like Cadillac, well, yeah, they're spending quite a bit of money on advertising. So she'll share a lot of that today, I'm sure. She's got her master's degree from Savannah College of Art and Design in interactive design and game development. And so again, lifelong learner, right? Sounds familiar. But what I want to just leave you with as I turn it over to Carrie is she is a true example of somebody making a difference in a very competitive, demanding world of advertising as a Christian woman, and I think that's what makes her the most successful. So please help me welcome Carrie Schimmel.
All right, so to kind of introduce me a little bit, I graduated in 2003, which didn't seem like a long time ago, but I guess it is now. What was kind of interesting when I jumped into it was graphic design was just starting to come along, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew it was something in that field, and so it was exciting, kind of a journey as we walked through. I'm going to share a little bit about what my current role is now and to give you some insight into that. And then I'm also going to talk about 4 things that I want you to kind of consider as you're just starting to enter into your careers, because one of the things that you need to realize is college is when your career starts. And so it's really important for you to start looking at it from that perspective. So I work for Campbell Ewald. That is literally where I work. My desk looks out over that space. It's a pretty cool space to work. I'd say it's inside of Ford Field. We have 3 offices, Detroit, Los Angeles, and New York. My role is I oversee all 3 of those offices. I oversee new business development. I also oversee our internal communications, external communications, and I'm now in the role of planning and strategy. And so although it's still very much creative, I don't actually I'm not necessarily a graphic designer anymore, but I still absolutely use my design thinking, graphic design skills as I walk into it. So Campbell Ewald is, as Brian mentioned, it's the third oldest agency in the world. They had Chevy for 90 years. When Chevy first started as an automobile company, they jumped in. They've had brands globally, and we're also part of a group called MullenLowe Group. And so MullenLowe actually has 90 agencies and 60 offices all around the world. So I do things like I sometimes take calls at 6 a.m. with London, and then sometimes I'm on the phone at 10 p.m. with Australia. This job has allowed me to travel all over the world. I've gotten to see a lot of different places and things, which is pretty cool. And so I know that Spring Arbor cultivates an understanding of the world and being an active citizen in that, and so it served me well in that way. The other thing that's kind of cool about Campbell Ewald, I think, is that it's also opened my eyes to the opportunity of different things you get to do. And that when you get into it, I never thought I'd be in the role I'm in today when I started right out of college. But there's a lot of things that it has to offer. So I'm just going to show a little bit of the work that CE does, and you can kind of probably recognize a few of those brands, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about just kind of what is my job every day. Just a little bit of the work we do. So from an everyday perspective, what my role is and what it's about. So the first thing that I do is I oversee what's called new business development. So that means when different brands want to work with agencies and do work, they do what's called pitches. These pitches are often about 2 to 3 month long process where you go from hearing from the client, throwing your best work out to them. You might even go as far as, like we do, we actually shoot television commercials on our own dime to try and get them to choose us. And then we get up in front of rooms of anywhere from 12 to 60 people sometimes, and we pitch them on what we think their brand should be doing for the next couple of years, and we show them full creative campaigns and how they come to life. My role is I help to oversee our 3 offices. I'm tasked with getting numbers every year. These numbers are in the millions of dollars. I'm supposed to bring in every year for new business and pitch new accounts. And then I also help to oversee from a global perspective some of our global pitches as it relates to the network. I also help to oversee, this is our office up here. This is right outside the Pacific Design Center in West Hollywood. That's our LA office. I help to oversee our external communications. So anytime you see things like our website, our keynote templates, our stationery, I mean, every single piece of communication that comes out of Campbell Ewald, I help to oversee, and I'm responsible for that. So I still get to kind of put on my design hat and help to guide and develop that work. I'm also in charge of our internal communications. We do a lot of selfies in new business. It's the thing we do. But for internal communications, this is probably most exciting, honestly, outside of doing new business and the development on that. I help to shape the values of our company, what our employees stand for, what we want to stand for in the world, how we want to manage our clients' money, how we want to manage ourselves and our reputation. We've had a year that we've had to really rebuild our reputation. So it's been a really cool responsibility to step in and say, what type of volunteer efforts are we going to do? How are we going to make our industry, and not just our industry, but think about how as an agency we impact culture and how we have to develop that in our talent. And then you also see I get to work on some pretty cool brands. One of the brands we won last year was Travelocity. So Travelocity's been pretty cool. I got to go to South Africa last year to film the commercials for that. So I think there's a spot that's going to be playing in the gallery, and that was in South Africa. It's really cool to go to South Africa in February. It's summer there, which is pretty neat. But what's been cool with Travelocity is I helped to set the vision for what they are as a brand. So when we talk about strategy, my role in that sense is I come in and I help to identify who's their consumer, what's the business goal that we're trying to do, and then I solve business problems from them from a creative perspective. So I help to set out and say, who are you going to stand for as a brand? What's the messaging? What's the personality? What's the tone that needs to go forward? And then I also help to use design thinking to map the consumer journey experience. What are all the touch points we want to reach them with? What are ways we can innovate different types of touch points? Digital, interactive, media, creative. I got my start at Campbell Ewald where I jumped from creative to actually strategy. So I came into Campbell Ewald and I was the digital planner on the Cadillac account. And I helped to set kind of the global strategic vision for Cadillac, and I stepped in on that. That was a fun account. I got to do lots of kind of cool things. This was actually in LA, and I got to go out and brief the CAA on the Entourage movie and got to screen the Warner Brothers Entourage on the back lot. Let me just say, what went in theaters looked nothing like the cut that I saw. It's a good thing. It was really bad what I saw. But anyway, so Cadillac was pretty cool. It was fun to jump into that and to experience the cars and to get behind a wheel and to be able to drive all of them was pretty cool. And most recently, I got to help lead the global pitch for Harley-Davidson. So we just recently won the Harley-Davidson account about 2 months ago. And so in that sense, I got to help lead the global vision. I had teams from 40 different countries, 3 different regions, all reporting in, bringing them all together, setting the strategic visions, setting the tone for what they are. I went to motorcycle school and even learned how to ride a motorcycle. That was fun. And so it's been a really cool ride, definitely at Campbell Ewald and what I've been able to do. I wanted to share a little bit just to kind of show you what type of work do you do when you jump into something like this. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the Harley-Davidson pitch. So what does it look like to work on a pitch like this and to globally come together? And how does graphic design fit into this? And how does even your education fit into it? So I'm going to show you a video that was from our Harley pitch. What we did was we got invited. We sent a really beautiful presentation. We'll look at that after this. And when we got asked to be a part of the pitch, we then, without the company even knowing, we convened people from all over the world into Milwaukee. We spent a couple days at the museum. We brainstormed together. And we sent them this video to tell them that we were excited about their work. So the audience of this video is Harley, but you guys can get a flavor for what it's like when you first get together and you start working. So that was Team Ignite, and we established that at the forefront. But you can kind of see those collaborative brainstorm sessions. So we had about 12 people together. They broke up into groups of 3. They all had to come back with ideas that surrounded a brief. And we came out with some pretty good work in the room in about 2 days. But graphic design comes into all of this, right? So even though I didn't necessarily design each piece of this, I oversaw about a team of, roughly there were about 50 people working on this pitch to try and bring it together into fruition. Everything from sites to a 300-page fully designed book, to even the office environment experiences and touch points. There was sculptural design that was part of this. There was full environmental design. There was about 7 different videos that were shot over time, including 3 different commercials. So a lot of different work goes into developing a pitch, into winning, and to also helping companies understand the vision you have for them. And so it's a powerful thing when you start to realize all the pieces that kind of come together. So I know some of you are going to be in campaign classes this year. You might be asked to do 3 touch points. This would be about 50 touch points that we bring to life over the course of probably about 3 weeks sometimes. So when you think a semester is a tough timeline, it just starts to prepare you for the real world where you only have 2 weeks sometimes. So that being said, I've had the chance to work on a lot of brands that might recognize. So I've probably worked on about 35 different brands over the course of my career. Some of them have been really big highlights. The first time I got to work for Disney was pretty cool. Definitely Harley has been a brand that I think a lot of people covet and want to be a part of. And walking in, really, I've spent a lot of time there lately, but just walking through the halls there and knowing you're part of a 100-year-old brand is pretty cool. So I wanted to leave you with 4 different things to consider. One of which is a quote that I've kept with me quite a bit ever since I left Spring Arbor. And that was from Bill Bippus, and I don't know how many of you have gotten a chance to meet him, but he's a force to be reckoned with, I'll tell you that. But he said, and I remembered it quite a bit in my drawing class, but talent is the willingness to spend the time. And it's something that's really true once you get to your career. And the fact is that at the core of it, you always have to try harder. And you always have to push yourself to the next thing. The one thing that Spring Arbor, I think, instilled in me is that when they ask for 1 drawing in your class, you do 2. When they ask for 1 tactic, you do 4. And you start to realize that throughout your career, you're never necessarily going to be given the opportunity that you didn't earn. So every time I got a title change, it was a title that I feel like I earned months before I got it. And so if you take away anything from how you walk through and how you grow and how you start to step above, it really is that it's not going to be handed to you. So earning it every step of the way and also proving that sense of confidence and doing it with integrity is a big part of what your testimony is going to be, but it also is something that you start here. So keep pushing yourself, always try harder every step of the way. The next thing I want to leave you with is that every class counts. Now, I probably was one of the hardest on Mr. Shaw when it came to trying to push him and say, you know, are we as good as the art schools, and should I go to an art school? And I went to an art school for my grad degree. But one of the things I think I value most about my education at Spring Arbor, outside of the great foundation I got from this department, was that my core 200 class and my cross-cultural class and my sociology class are classes I use every day in my career. They set me up to look at the world differently. They've empowered me to understand culture in ways I never knew. And one of the things I realized was that most universities don't do that. They don't give you a holistic view of the culture you live in and all the aspects that affect that culture and how to best reach people and understand them and talk to them. So don't take these classes lightly. I don't know if you guys still read There Are No Children Here. Do you? I hope you do. It's like one of my favorite books ever. And Bob Reiner's book, of course, is a foundational book, I think, to Spring Arbor. Right? Still? Okay, good. But I think that one of the big things to take away here is that use your time wisely here. You're going to go through classes where like, I'm never going to use this. In fact, I still use my American history of the 1960s, which I thought that was a waste of time, but it's not when you're speaking to someone who grew up in that era. So it's important to understand that every aspect counts. The next is you will have an incredible opportunity to impact culture in what you do. With the gifts you've been given, you're able to illustrate and visualize communication in ways no one else can. I used to teach at College for Creative Studies, and one of the things I always tried to tell the students is that with a gift like this, you've been given such a great amount of responsibility to make a difference in this world and to understand the impact you can have on it, whether it be for good or for bad. Some of the biggest campaigns of this past year have definitely impacted culture in ways of breaking the glass ceiling in Like a Girl and helping with race and diversity issues, which is something that this country desperately needs right now. And even with things like consumerism with the REI Opt Outside campaign. One of the things, if you do go into advertising, and this was, I was talking to him, probably the most shocking is when I started working on Cadillac, and I'm like, I think these numbers are wrong. I've never seen these millions of dollars. You literally have millions of dollars at your disposal, millions of dollars where a single voice goes out, and you're helping to shape how someone sees what it means to be family in this country, the way we should treat each other as humans, how we should interact and respond. That's a huge responsibility, and one that you can impact culture in ways maybe you never thought of. And it's not just US culture, it's also global culture. And the last thing I want to leave you with is the idea of being faithful. When it comes to your career, I think I get frustrated sometimes when people say, you know, it's really hard to be a Christian in the workplace. And my response back to them is, it's really hard to have confidence in the workplace. That's what it takes to be a Christian in the workplace. It's confidence in yourself, it's confidence in your convictions, and it's confidence in what you say. Part of being great at what you do, especially when it comes to communication, is being confident in what you're delivering and confident that what you believe in matters. And I think when it comes to being faithful, just like when you've got lots of dollars at your disposal, it's being confident in making recommendations that, you know, we need to break down certain barriers that exist in society. One of the pieces I'm most excited about from Campbell Ewald, we're about to break incredible work that features Kendrick Lamar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, pretty famous right now. And it's going to be destigmatizing behavioral health in the United States. That's a huge topic that we need to be talking about right now. And it's exciting to be a part of that and to push work through that does that. It's also having the confidence to stand up and say, I can't work on this because I don't believe in it. Last year I had Planned Parenthood come across my desk, and they wanted us to pitch the work. As a globally managed company that has shareholders, I'm not allowed to say no necessarily for the agency to pitch that work, but I am allowed to raise my hand and say, I will not be a part of it. I legally have my right to not work on it if I don't want to, if I don't believe in it, and I chose not to. And then I prayed every day we wouldn't win it, and then we didn't win it. But I think that's where you have to stand up. You have to stand for your conviction. You have to be okay with the fact that, you know, your voice might be the minority, but that's what's needed to change culture. You have to start with being your voice as a minority and then build it to be the majority. And I think, just to leave you with one last thing here, so remember these things. Always try harder. I'm going to ask him 6 months from now because I told him, look, I want you to bring your students, come to Campbell Ewald. We offer internships, we offer scholarships, all sorts of great things like that. And I'm going to ask him, are your students trying harder? Are they turning in more assignments than what was asked? Is it at a level higher than what your expectations were? I remember Bippus telling me that there's only one A in the class. I don't know if you do that anymore. That's nicer. It's a lot nicer. But I think that one of the things to remember is that always try harder. Every class counts. Really put in the work in all your classes and learn from them as much as you can. Remember that what you do has the power to impact culture, and finally be faithful in the work that you do and the choices that you make, because they do matter. All right, so I didn't want to keep us too long today. I wanted to keep it pretty short, but I also wanted to allow for any questions that you might have. I know I had a lot of students, but I also know students are pretty quiet these days, so you let me know.
Now's your chance.
Any questions? Yeah. You said you taught at CCS.
I did.
Go more into detail about what that was like.
Yeah, I taught at CCS for about 4 years. I taught Intro to Advertising, a freshman class. I taught, digital art direction, and then I taught 2 senior portfolio classes. CCS is a great school. It's a very expensive school. Believe it or not, it costs more to go there than it did for me to go to Spring Arbor, or to go to Spring Arbor and to Savannah College of Art and Design. CCS is a school that focuses very narrowly on building portfolios as it relates to advertising. I think one of the challenges I had with CCS students is that if they were coming in young, they tended to not have the well-rounded gen eds and liberal arts that really helped them round out the brief. What I found is the most successful CCS students often had an undergraduate degree. Most of them came. I probably about had half of my class, which was literally like 2 years younger than I was sometimes, who were going back to school to get a more of a focus. It was a great school. I recommend that one too. I think they've got a great grad degree program as well. But definitely a little bit different in the sense of very focused and narrow. Any other questions?
Are there classes like specifically outside the art major you would recommend art majors take, like business classes or advertising classes?
Absolutely. I don't know the course track that's available here at Spring Arbor right now, but what I would recommend, absolutely take sociology classes. They help you understand the world in which you live in and anthropology and as it relates to that. Take marketing classes. I think that's a really big part of it. And then I would also take business strategy, because a lot of the strategic foundations of what makes a business run, it's important to understand that as you go into it. Even if you just want to do graphic design, understanding what you're designing and why you're designing it. Most of the time you're going to be designing for a business. They have an objective you're trying to achieve. Understanding that objective more is just going to make you a better fit for their project.
After you have a portfolio established and you have a good website set up, what other, I guess, just kind of a 2-part question, what's the good line of command to go through when first getting yourself out there, wanting to get into advertising specifically with graphic design, photography, things like that?
Absolutely. So first I would start in school. One of the things I would tell you is that you need to have at least 2 internships by the time you graduate. If you don't have 2 internships, other people will have them. It's going to be very difficult for you to compete. You need to try and start getting them as soon as you can. The second thing is that if you're looking to go into a professional career, work specifically for, maybe it's an agency, a production company, things like that, they all have recruiters. Make sure that you connect with them on LinkedIn. Make sure that they know that you're available. Reach out to them often. And I would also compare your work. You're going to be judged as much by what's in your portfolio as what you keep out of it. One of the big things I often say to people is, they may show me everything they've ever done for the last 5 years. Editing is a really critical skill. So I'd rather see 3 things done really well than 5 things where 2 of them are mediocre, and that tells me you don't know how to judge great work. So just be really mindful of that. Any other questions?
Last chance.
So I put these up here just so you know. That's my email. I am on LinkedIn. I'm pretty connected on there, so if you guys want to connect with me, that's always a good thing, because then you can also see my contacts and see who they are and connect with them if you want. And then also I'm on Instagram. I like to take pictures of all the places I go, all over the place. I was telling Brian, I travel a lot, so you gotta kind of like to travel in what I do, and thankfully my husband's at the back of the room, so that's cool. He lets me do that, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I definitely travel almost once a week somewhere, so that's going to be, if you want to follow on Instagram, I post a lot of photos of it too. It's kind of fun. So, all right.
Okay, well, help me thank Carrie again.